Now, a very important CBS News investigation. A 5-month state-by-state survey by our investigative team has uncovered a troubling and tragic epidemic among our military veterans. An epidemic of suicide. Men and women taking their lives in startling numbers. Our chief investigative correspondent, Armin Katayan, has the story.
Pretty much the worst day of my life.
And I just felt like this silent scream inside of me.
I opened up the door, and there he was.
Ready.
Then I saw the hose double looped around his neck.
Up and on.
He was gone.
These former soldiers all served in Iraq, only to die battling an enemy they could not conquer. Their loved ones now speaking out in their names.
They survive the hell that's Iraq, and then they come home, only to lose their life.
23-year-old Marine reservist Jeff Lucy hanged himself with a garden hose in the cellar of his parents' home, where his father Kevin found him.
There's the crisis going on, and people are just turning the other way.
Kim and Mike Bowman's son Tim was an Army reservist who patrolled one of the most dangerous places in Baghdad, known as Airport Road.
His eyes, when he came back, were just dead. The light wasn't there anymore.
8 months later, on Thanksgiving Day, Tim shot himself. He was 23. Diana Henderson's son Derek served 3 tours in Iraq. He died jumping off a bridge at 27.
Going to that morgue and seeing my baby, my life will never be the same.
Beyond the individual loss, it turns out little information exists about just how widespread suicides are among those who have served in the military.
1, 2, 3.
There have been some studies, but no one has ever counted the numbers nationwide.
Nobody wants to tally it up in the form of a government total.
Why do you think that is?
Because they don't want the true number of casualties to really be known.
They are suffering so much.
Senator Patty Murray is a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee.
If you're just looking at the overall number of veterans themselves who have committed suicide, we have not been able to get the numbers.
We wanted the numbers, so we submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the Department of Defense, asking for the numbers of suicides among all service members for the past 12 years. 4 months later, they sent us this document showing that between 1995 and 2007, there were almost 2,200 suicides, 188 last year alone. But these numbers included only active duty soldiers. We then went to the Department of Veterans Affairs, where Dr. Ira Katz is the head of mental health.
There is no epidemic of suicide in VA, but suicide is a major problem.
Why hasn't the VA done a national study seeking national data on how many veterans have committed suicide in this country?
That research is ongoing.
So we did our own investigation, asking all 50 states for their suicide data based on death records for veterans and non-veterans dating back to 1995. 45 states sent us what turned out to be a mountain of information, and what it revealed was stunning. In 2005, for example, in just those 45 states, there were at least 6,256 suicides among those who served in the armed forces. That's 120 each and every week in just 1 year.
So we can see again the pattern of higher rates among the veterans than the non-veterans.
Dr. Steve Rathman is the acting head of the Biostatistics Department at the University of Georgia. We asked him to run a detailed analysis of the numbers that we obtained from state authorities for 2004 and 2005. We found that veterans were more than twice as likely to commit suicide in 2005 than non-vets. One group stood out, veterans 20 to 24, those who have served during the War on Terror. They had the highest suicide rate among all veterans, estimated between 2 and 4 times higher than civilians the same age, at rates from 23 to 32 per 100,000 people, versus just 8 for non-vets.
Wow, those are devastating.
Paul Sullivan, a former VA analyst, is now an advocate for veterans' rights.
Those numbers clearly show an epidemic of mental health problems. We're determined to decrease veteran suicides.
6,256 in 2005, 120 a week. Is that a problem, Dr.
You
Katz?
bet it's a
Is it
problem.
an epidemic, Dr. Katz?
You know, veterans, I had mentioned that returning...
Yes or no, Dr. Katz? Is it an epidemic?
Suicide in America is an epidemic, and that includes veterans.
These statistics tell me that we have really failed the people who served our country.
Do those numbers serve as a wake-up call for this country?
If these numbers don't wake up this country, nothing will. We each have a responsibility to make sure that the men and women who serve us aren't lost when they come home.
Armin, this is so disturbing. So why, bottom line, hasn't the VA done more to track these numbers and help these veterans, especially those young ones?
Well, Katie, our sense from all the reporting we've done nationwide, they just don't want to look, because if they found what we found, they would have to deal with it, and they just don't want to deal with it. Tomorrow night, we'll take a really hard look at the VA, Katie.
All right. Armin Gatayan. Armin, thank you so much. For much more on this story, the warning signs for suicide, and where people at risk can find help, you can go to cbsnews.com and click on CBS Evening.